Guys, I am sick to my stomach. Just 1 month prior to Matthew Farwell, the former Staunton police detective that was recently indicted for the unaliving of Sandra Birchmore, yeah, that schmuck. 1 month prior to him getting married to his wife, Michelle, he takes 15-year-old Sandra Birchmore's virginity. Guys, this is what evil looks like. Hello, 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 and welcome to Alexa's Room, where we are not lawyers, we are not medical professionals, we are not law enforcement, we are just people. People who have opinions about all things going on in the true crime community, including the takedown of Matthew Farwell.
Cell phone video from a Revere strip mall shows the takedown of former Stoughton detective Matthew Farwell after his indictment in the murder of a pregnant woman more than 3 years ago.
People came in the store and said that the FBI was out front arresting someone, so I went outside and just seen a bunch of cops running around.
Chris, who doesn't want to use his last name, was working at the Northgate Shopping Center when the FBI swarmed the property and arrested the former police officer who was wearing a t-shirt and jeans and behind the wheel of a gravel hauler.
I don't have any respect for someone that would do that, especially to a child.
He and others who watched the scene unfold say they are blown away by the accusations that Farwell groomed Sandra Birchmore when she was a teen and sexually abused her before staging her suicide in 2021.
It's a crying shame that we have these cops doing this stuff behind closed doors. I think he's a clown. He should never been doing what he was doing, and it's out of hand.
Later in the day, others who learned of the arrest and call themselves supporters of justice showed up at the Moakley Federal Courthouse in Boston to see it firsthand.
It just breaks my heart because her and her baby would have been fine. They would have been absolutely fine.
Just because you're a police officer with a badge, you can't get away with everything.
And some folks who saw the arrest go down say they saw black smoke rising from the commotion right here in the middle of this parking lot, which they believe was caused by some type of diversionary device, potentially a flashbang. We still don't know what Farwell was doing here in this parking lot or why he was driving a gravel truck. We're live in Revere tonight. Drew Carritas for your local station, Boston 25 News.
Truth.
I mean, that is interesting. So I didn't know that little tidbit. That wasn't really reported as far as I know from what I could tell, but there being some sort of diversion. So I guess they didn't want to draw too much attention to the scene. But then why scoop him up in a public parking lot? I just don't understand that. If you want it to be under wraps and sending in the SWAT team, of course you're going to draw some kind of attention to that. If that was the FBI that was throwing the flashbangs and smoke, I thought they were just saying that as a term of expression, but apparently there was actual black smoke rising. So as more unfolds on that, we will keep you posted here on Alexa's Room. But I wanted to use this video to go through this 45-page affidavit of Matthew Farwell, the crimes that he committed, the alleged 32,000 text message, well, no longer alleged because we know they're there because it's documented. It's documented. I imagine this isn't even probably a fraction of how many there are between him and Sandra Birchmore from, I believe, 2019 to 2021. Now, remember our friend Nick Guarino, the same guy who is trying to word salad his way out of describing how you could delete the "How Long to Die in Cold" Google search, the infamous Jen McCabe Google search. Well, that was the same guy who was in charge of extracting this data. So there's a lot of similarities, and see if you can pick them up as we're reading along. Like I said, this is a doozy. It's heavy AF. If you need to step away, if you need to go take care of yourself, please do. I'm not going to be offended if you walk away. There were points where I was reading a lot of this conversation where I needed to take a break. I haven't even read through the entire affidavit because I needed to take several breaks in reading this because of my own past, my own situation that I have been through. So if you need to go take care of yourself, please do that. But I just want to give this trigger warning before we dive in. All right, buckle up, kids. This is going to be a long night. Affidavit of Special Agent Shanae Castruita, excuse me if I am pronouncing that horribly wrong, in support of government's motion for detention. Shanae having been sworn, state introduction, agent background. So we'll go a little bit into the special agent that was in charge of handling this case. So I guess in this case it would be Shanae, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And a little bit into their background. So, I have been a special agent with the FBI since June of 2022. I am currently assigned to the Public Corruption and Civil Rights Squad of FBI's Boston Division, where I investigate public corruption and civil rights offenses. I am a graduate of the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia. I have received on-the-job training and attended courses sponsored by the FBI and Department of Justice on how to conduct investigations regarding violations of various federal laws. I am a federal law enforcement officer, which we are not here on this channel, within the meaning of Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 41A to C. So again, just giving the background of here are my credentials, here's my credibility. The facts in this affidavit come from my personal observations and review of records, my training and experience, and information obtained from other agents and witnesses. I mean, imagine. So this person just became the special agent, respectfully, became a special agent officially in 22. This case, or this crime was committed in 21. Imagine being like fresh out of the academy, and this is the storm that you're walking into. I can't even imagine. From other agents and witnesses, this affidavit is filed in connection with the government's motion for detention. Therefore, it does not set forth all of my own and the other investigators' knowledge about this matter. I submit this affidavit in connection with the government's motion to detain defendant. How good does it feel to read that, folks? Right? Defendant. Gotta say that again for the kids in the back. Defendant Matthew Farwell, pending trial. Now, according to what I have learned online in certain reports, he has pled not guilty, which doesn't sound too unusual to me, considering he has a wife and children. And to admit your guilt, I mean, that would be the right thing to do, because I don't really see your way weaseling out of this one. But I definitely didn't see him pleading guilty by any means of the imagination. So, as alleged in the indictment charging Farwell with violating 18 USC, yada, 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 and as further described below on February 1st, 21, Farwell unalived Sandra Birchmore with the intent to prevent her from communicating to law enforcement certain information regarding Farwell's commission, or possible commission of the following federal crimes. So now they're listing out all the crimes that he is being indicted with. Using a facility or means of interstate commerce to persuade, induce, entice, or coerce the then 15-year-old Birchmore to engage in unlawful, gross connections in violation of, and let me just zoom in so you guys can read this a little bit clearer in case you can't. Hopefully that's better, because I can't say the words. If I do, the YouTube's gonna strike me for it. So, in violation of 18, yada, 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 coercion and enticement. So this is A. B is depriving Birchmore of certain rights secured by the U.S. Constitution by committing S. Grape while acting under color of law in violation of yada, yada, yada. And C, participating in a scheme to defraud the Staunton Police Department and town of Staunton through false representations or material omissions about the hours Farwell worked in order to receive compensation for official time when he was in fact engaging in disgusting behavior with Birchmore in violation of yada, yada, yada. So now we understand the charges, what he's being indicted with. Overview of investigation. 4. On February 1st, 2021, then Staunton Police Detective Matthew Farwell unalived Sandra Birchmore. Farwell committed this unalivement at least in part to prevent Birchmore from disclosing to authorities information regarding his commission or possible commission of one or more crimes, including coercion and enticement in violation of, and deprivation of rights under color of law in violation of, and then ongoing wire fraud scheme in violation. So she was going to rat him out to everything. Tell him everything. And she should have. She really should have. Farwell's murder of Birchmore was the culmination of Farwell's years-long pattern of ABUSE targeting Birchmore. 5. When she was a young girl, Sandra Birchmore was interested in pursuing a career in law enforcement. This is the part that bothers me so much, too, about this case, is because here's a young girl who grew up from maybe not the best home life, not the most stable. She's going in, instead of trying to do, delinquent activities with her friends, ditching school, ditching classes, smoking this, smoking that, partying, what a lot of typical delinquent teenagers do, myself included. She goes, no, I want to spend my afternoons learning how to be a police officer, somebody whose job is to serve and protect their community. How innocent and sweet is that? Something that we should be encouraging all of our children to take part in. What a great after-school activity. I mean, I can only imagine the kind of resume that would have built for college. I don't know if she was college educated, if she did go to school. Let me know if you guys know in the chat. I'm still getting a little bit more familiarized with this case. But how sweet and innocent, and this is why it disturbs me so much, because it really parallels a lot of just my own experience, and maybe it's similar to your own story too, if you have also survived something as traumatic as this. And eventually joined the Staunton Police Explorers Academy, hereinafter Police Explorers, to learn more about law enforcement careers. While Birchmore was in the program, Farwell was involved as both a volunteer and an instructor. And remember from my last video that I posted too, Farwell just joined the Staunton Police Department. I don't know if he was just promoted as a detective, or if from my understanding, he just joined as a police officer with that specific department. And right off the bat, he volunteered for this program, which is creepy. It gives me creepy vibes. It gives me Jared from Subway vibes of how he wanted to so desperately be around children all the time. And the more and more we go through this affidavit, if you haven't read through it already or haven't checked out some other coverage of other creators going through this affidavit, there is a history, not only of just violence or violent tendencies with Matthew Farwell, but also a history of him fantasizing about young people. So part of me feels like it was a deliberate plan for him, and this is my pure speculation, to become a figure of authority. I mean, how many times have we seen, especially now, it seems like every other day there's a new story about some teacher getting arrested for having a disgusting relationship with one of their students. How many times do we see that going on, right? These people who have these sick tendencies and are just sick, evil people are getting into careers where they know their authority isn't going to be questioned, where they feel they can be safe to explore their dirtiest and most depraved parts of themselves, scathing away, hopefully, going completely unnoticed, and he did successfully for years. For years. For years and years and years. And you deliberately put yourself in these situations to be specifically surrounded by kids. So it's like he has the authority cap. Now he's like, "Oh, there's an explorers program. Well, that seems great. Not only will I look like the new stud on the job, right? I just got hired at this police department. It'll make me look good to my bosses if I'm first to volunteer for something like this, right? But I also get to fulfill my sick fantasies too. And this is extremely dangerous." While Birchmore was in the program, Farwell was both involved as both a volunteer and an instructor. Farwell used his authority and access to broom, exploit, and ultimately ABUSE, then 15-year-old Birchmore. Farwell continued the ABUSE after Birchmore became an adult, and he continued to engage in extramarital gross relations. And again, I hate calling it a relationship because it wasn't, because she never had the ability to consent with Birchmore until he unalived her on February 1, 2021. 6. There are signs that in late 2020 and early 2021, Farwell was losing control of Birchmore and the information she possessed about his past and then ongoing conduct, because I have to believe that at some point, because you're no longer a child, you're becoming an adult, a young woman. Yes, your mind is still developing too. I know it's different from women. Women their brains stop developing emotionally mature a little bit earlier than men do. It's just scientifically proven, guys, not to say anything about that. But she probably started to have some of these questions. I can only imagine of, is this wrong? Is this right? Well, now it doesn't matter because I feel like I love him. I feel like I love him. From my standpoint, we're in a relationship. I get I'm not his wife. I get he has this other life, but I'm carrying his child. I want him to be a part of this little family we have and do the right thing, because in her brain, they're almost like a normal couple, right? And the way that they converse and talk to each other, especially when she's 50, it's so disturbing. It is so disturbing. And this whole video is a big fat trigger warning. So please take care of yourself if you need to. But at this point, he feels like he's losing control because she's smartening up. And she's saying, "You know what? I know what you did was wrong. I'm starting to realize that because I'm in a position where I am going to become a parent myself." And this is so interesting because it reminds me a lot of the dynamic between Mary Kay Letourneau and Billy, right? They actually got married and went on to have more children. How bizarro is that? And this is something that he has to live with forever. Forever and ever. Mary Kay Letourneau passed over the last couple of years. And I can't imagine the internal struggle that he's feeling because he's a survivor who also married and has children and will always be connected and interlocked to this woman, this disgusting human being. And a lot of ways, this is similar to Sandra's case. Obviously, the conclusion of their stories ended very differently. But I can imagine that now she's becoming a young woman on her way to become a mother herself. The way that you look at children, it's not gonna be the same way. You're gonna get mommy brain and start to realize, wow, that's not right. And if you're not gonna do the right thing because I know what you did was not right, sir, I'm gonna use that against you. Now, some people are calling it blackmail. I don't wanna call it that. I think more than anything, she was starting to realize that this is a dangerous situation, and that if she's not gonna get control of her life and her child's life, then he's gonna forever have this control over her, and it's just such a sad dynamic. It's just such a it's so, so tragic because all she wanted to do was be a mom. Soon thereafter, Birchmore told Farwell that he was the father of her child and she wanted him to be more involved in the planning for the impending birth. January 21, Birchmore's friend contacted Farwell's employer, the Staunton Police Department, and during that call, referenced Farwell and Birchmore's illicit, gross, gross thing. Shortly thereafter, a Staunton Police Department employee told Farwell about that call. So I wonder, I don't know if anybody knows this, so obviously, because it's going to trial, this person is going to get called 100%. Not only her friend who made the call, but the friend at the Staunton Police Department. I don't know if this is known information. I have no idea who this person is, but somebody's like, "Oh, I'm going to look out for my boy." And I wonder if that friend could have been one of the other guys also involved in hurting Sandra. I don't know. Those are the questions that I have. By the end of January 2021, Farwell faced the specter of additional disclosures to law enforcement regarding their prior ABUSE, or his, I already said there, his prior ABUSE of Birchmore and his then ongoing efforts to defraud the Staunton Police Department and town of Staunton by meeting her for gross interactions when he was supposed to be on duty as a police officer. So not only are you doing the most disgusting, deplorable thing any human being could do, but you're also defrauding your community of their money. The people that are paying you, you're defrauding them as well too. So what a stand-up guy. Not only are you lying to your wife about having somebody on the side, but not only that, having this person who was formerly a child when you first started getting together, and now you're stealing money from the community that is funding this disgusting behavior. What a deplorable piece of human garbage. On February 1st, Farwell went to, this is on 21 still, went to Birchmore's apartment in Canton, Massachusetts, wearing a COVID-19 medical face mask. Once inside, he unalived her and staged her body in an apartment to make it appear that Birchmore had died by her own unalivement. Now, before we continue, I just want to pull up that clip in case you guys haven't seen it yet. I know a lot of you have who have been following this case, but for those of you who are new to it and just learning, I want to give you a peek at it. It's a very short clip. And just a quick shout out to the young jerks for sharing this video footage as well too. So starting from the beginning, it's a really short clip. This is Sandra over here getting into her elevator. This is her again leaving. Seemingly holding the door open or trying to hold the door open for somebody. She's getting back into her elevator, coming out again. There she is again, back in her building. I guess she was cleaning off her car. That's something interesting too, is you can see when she's walking in, right? She takes out her phone. So just to back it up really quick. She hits the button, goes in her pocket, takes out her phone, which I always found interesting because this is my pure speculation, and I guess we'll see as more messages start to come out and more evidence comes into play, especially when we get to this trial, which is probably not going to be for a hot minute. But she probably is texting him, which is so eerie and like terrifying to think about. So this is Matthew Farwell coming in. Everybody was pretty quick to identify him. You know, even though he's got his hood on, whether he's doing it to be nefarious or not, I mean, there's obviously snow outside, but he does have his head down. Unmistakably, it's definitely him. Just height and everything. This will probably be a big piece of evidence in the trial. So he gets in the elevator. So 2806. He gets out at 21. So just back up and see those times. So 21:28:06. And then 21:56:32. So 28 to 56. So what is that? That's exactly like what, 28 minutes from the time he got into the elevator to the time he got out. I mean, that's very quick. He's got his mask on. He comes out casual and leaves. No Sandra coming out. Granted, it's her apartment. But I mean, how eerie. 21:28. 21:56. Now I know these things aren't always completely 100% accurate with like their times, but that definitely gives us a really close, accurate guesstimation of approximately how long this took place, which is just so creepy and eerie to think about too, especially with her seemingly texting somebody or looking to see if somebody texted her. And I can only imagine it was probably him, right? On February 1st, 2021, 3 days after the unaliving, members of the Canton PD, our good friends, the good old boys at Canton PD, went to Birchmore's apartment to conduct a well-being check. When police officers entered Birchmore's apartment, they found her body. Paramedic determined that Birchmore was dead and her body was transported to the office of the chief medical examiner, hereinafter the OCME, who is not named. This is something else too. The chief medical examiner's name is being withheld at this time. Which a lot of people have different theories or reasons for believing as to why that might be. I have my own, but let's continue reading. What say you? In early May 2021, an OCME pathologist ruled Birchmore's manner of death to be an unaliving. Interesting. So now let's get into the evidence, right? And this is page 4 of 45, folks. Like I said, buckle up. This is gonna be a doozy. Evidence that Farwell committed federal offenses or possibly committed federal offenses by ABUSING Birchmore when she was a minor. 10, Matthew Farwell started exploiting Sandra Birchmore. I'm going to keep using that word every time they mention like them, you know, hooking up is how they're essentially describing it when she's over 21. But I'm going to use exploiting because I just don't, the idea of saying relationship, it's icky. It gives me the ick because that's not what it was. Sandra Birchmore no later than 2013 when she was 15. At the time, Birchmore was enrolled in the Police Explorers. Farwell used his position of trust and authority as a sworn police officer and instructor in the Police Explorers to exploit Birchmore. So that's going to be the word that we use for all of these, but you can read it up on the screen here. Ultimately, Farwell exploited Birchmore, including by engaging in exploitation with her. The Explorers program is a vocational education program that enables youth to explore career paths such as careers in law enforcement. Police departments throughout the country partner with the Explorers program to create what are commonly known as Police Explorers programs. Staunton Police Department chartered and facilitated the Staunton Police Explorers. It was a quasi paramilitary program designed to expose youth participants to various aspects of policing. The sheer irony. Farwell became a sworn member of the Wellesley. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Please excuse my pronunciation on this. Not always so good with these words, guys. Police Department in 2008 on March 27th, 2012. Gosh, I cannot read today. He was hired by the Staunton Police Department, where he worked until he resigned on April 1st, 2022. So 10 years. He had a long run, good old boy, right? Prior to joining Staunton Police Department in 2012, he was a Police Explorers volunteer. So that's interesting because according to the document that we read the other day, and maybe I'll pull that up because I'm a little confused right now. I don't know about y'all. Let me pull up this other document. Let's bring this bad boy up. So this was the indictment from the other day that we read on my last video. So 3 prior to, in, or around. Okay, so I misinterpreted this. He became an instructor. No, I didn't actually. Farwell was a Police Explorers volunteer. He became an instructor when he started working for the. Yeah, so that's kind of like contradictory to me. So I guess they don't know when he became a volunteer. I don't know. But I'm a stickler for details. So let's just go with what's in this detention affidavit. So he was already a Police Explorers volunteer. Then after joining the Staunton Police Department, he served as a instructor. Oh, okay, got it. So I did totally 100% misread it. So he was a volunteer. Again, just to pull this document up again. So yeah, he was a volunteer before he became an instructor. Got it. Okay, totally misread that one. So I guess there's a difference. So I guess you get paid when you're an instructor, which is even more sickening. So he's not only that, I thought he was just a volunteer. I mean, not that that makes any of this any better, but it's like at least I could feel a little bit better knowing you're not getting paid to be a volunteer / instructor and surrounding yourself by children to fulfill whatever sick fantasies you have inside your mind, sir. But now I'm assuming when you become an instructor, you get a little bit of a pay grade, a pay raise in that. So that's even more disgusting, but all right. He had several roles as an instructor, including teaching firearms and explosive safety and conducting canine demonstrations. At the time, Farwell was already familiar with the Police Explorers program because he had also been a participant as a teenager. Yick! This gives me the ick! In March 2010, Sandra Birchmore applied to be a Police Explorers participant. At the time, Birchmore was 12. Let's read that again. In March 2010, Sandra Birchmore applied to be a Police Explorers participant. At the time, Birchmore was 12. 12 years old. She began participating in the program in the spring of 2010, and she remained in the program through 2016. 14. Farwell began to exploit Birchmore when she was a child. This exploitation culminated in Farwell graping Birchmore in April 2013 when she was only 15. At the time of this assault, Farwell was 27. Farwell continued to exploit Birchmore prior to her 18th birthday. After Birchmore turned 18, Farwell continued cultivating a gross continuation of his prior exploitation with her that lasted until her death, until he unalived her on February 1st. So now we're going to get into the text messages. I got to take a sip of water. This is like, this gives me like, ugh, Jared from Subway vibes. Electronic messages between Farwell and Birchmore indicate that Farwell ABUSED'd Birchmore when she was a child. And we got some footnotes here at the bottom. After Birchmore's death, law enforcement agents obtained Birchmore's cell phones, both Apple iPhones and laptop, and reviewed the data on those devices. During that review, agents discovered messages between Farwell and Birchmore. But guess who didn't? Guess who didn't? Our good friend, hot mic drop Guarino. That's who. 32,000 messages. Just what they disappeared into the ether of the interwebs. Steve Jobs clawing his hand up from the grave and just snatching all access to these 32,000 messages. Are you absolutely kidding me, bro? The messages confirmed that Farwell frequently communicated with Birchmore for years. The messages also indicate that Farwell had gross exploitative relations with Birchmore when she was a minor, starting in or around April 2013 when Birchmore was 15 and Farwell was 27. And the thing that really hits me too is how close in age I am to how old she would have been if she was still alive today. And just knowing from my own experiences too. Like, I always think about this when certain crimes were committed, and we think about, especially when we were alive, right? You know, what I was doing in or around this time. Well, at this time, I was just getting over my trauma, or not even getting over it, but adjusting in high school, gearing up at this point for, by 2013, gearing up for my graduation. All the while, not too far, because I lived in New York, not too far north. This is going on. It's just so crazy. I don't know if you guys think that sometimes, but where you were, what you were doing in or around this time, and just thinking about what somebody else was going through while you're just going about your day. It's just, it's wild. It's very wild. Based on my training, so these are the footnotes, an experience exploitation is the process of a predator building a relationship with a child or vulnerable adult. So these are for all the people who want to victim shame. It doesn't matter if you're a child or an adult, you can still be exploited by a person who has control over you in order to gain their trust, enabling the exploiter to ultimately exploit the child or otherwise vulnerable person. Under Massachusetts law, any intercourse with a person under the age of 16 is unlawful. So Massachusetts, your age of consent is 16? That's wild to me. That's wild. Because in New York, I believe it's 17. I don't care what anyone says about that. I think that is way too disgustingly young. And that's a whole other conversation for another day. But I feel like if you are in high school, no a grown man has any business. What do you possibly have in common with a child? What grown man or woman finds anything remotely attractive about somebody who is literally going to high school? who can't even drive a car without the supervision of an adult sitting in the passenger side. There's so much wrong in this country when it comes to consent, and that's a whole other conversation for a whole other day. But furthermore, any person who has gross relations with a child under the age of 16, being at least 10 years older than that child at the time of the event, is guilty. Wow, that is interesting. So, furthermore, any person who has exploitation activities with a child under 16 and is at least 10 years older. So, you mean to tell me, and you guys who live in Massachusetts, or who, am I interpreting this right? So if you're like 5 years older and the person's 15, right? Say he was 20 and she was 15, that would be okay? That is so bananas to me. Am I understanding that correctly? That is so gross. That is so disgusting to me. Finally, any mandated reporter who has exploitations with a child under 16 is guilty of aggravated statutory RAPE. During the relevant time period as a Staunton police officer, Farwell was a mandatory reporter. So if you were a cop, you don't get past this little like loophole. I'm sorry, Massachusetts, but this has got to change. This is disturbing. This is disturbing. So you mean to tell me a 21 or 22-year-old can have relations with somebody who's under 16 as long as you're not 10 years older than that? Like, why make that make sense? Unless, of course, you're a mandated reporter. Laws need to get friggin' updated, because that is just disturbing, man. That is disturbing. I gotta look up New York's laws. Data from Birchmore's Facebook account reveals aspects of the beginning of Farwell and Birchmore's online communications. Specifically, Facebook data indicates that Farwell sent Birchmore a Facebook friend request on October 28th, 2012. At that time, Birchmore was 15 and a participant in the Police Explorers. Farwell was her 26-year-old instructor. On February 21st, 2019, Birchmore and Farwell had a text message conversation about Farwell taking Birchmore's virginity. Birchmore told Farwell that she was happy that he took it. Later in the same conversation, Farwell acknowledged that it was a big thing to get to be the first. This man is disgusting. Him and Wade Wilson should be like bunk buddies. I feel like they'd get along famously, right? Or him and Jared. Actually, him and Jared. And if they can find Jeffrey Epstein anywhere. In the same text conversation, Farwell also reminisced about the first time he digitally... I can't read that out loud. Exploited her. Go with that. You guys can read it up on the screen. Discussing the day that occurred, Farwell asked Birchmore what she would have done if Farwell told her he wanted her that day. Birchmore responded that she would have told him that he could have exploitative activities with her after school. I want to literally puke. Does anybody else want to puke? I want to puke. She also recalled the specific class and seat that she was in when she realized that she was going to lose her innocence to Farwell. Based on my investigation, I believe that this occurred during the 2012 to 2013 school year when Birchmore was 15. Additionally, on March 19, 2019, Farwell asked Birchmore, "What would you have done if we never used a sock and I never pulled out?" Birchmore reassured Farwell that she would have still finished school. Like, how? Birchmore then told Farwell, "I loved prom night. It was worth not going to prom." So instead of Sandra Birchmore going to probably one of the most memorable nights for most teenage girls, especially, and hanging out with kids her own freaking age, and maybe even getting a boy her own age to ask her to prom and having that sweet, savory memory that she can carry on for a lifetime, you take that away from her by having her meet up with your disgusting. I hate this man. I hate this man. So wait, no, this wasn't. Was this prom night? Oh, this is just. There's a TV series with. It's a mini series that came out a couple of years ago. It's pretty well done, I thought. Called The Teacher, I think, with Kate Mara, Rooney Mara's sister. Really good about it's a fictitious story, but it's a play on kind of all the real events, real stories of a teacher exploiting one of her students. In this case, it was a boy, so the roles were reversed, and his feelings toward. And I think it's a really interesting inside look of like, because there is this kind of weird romanticizing again of that dynamic of older female teacher or older female authority figure and younger male, and that dynamic, and romanticizing that. But when it's a female, young female, and an older male, it's criminal, right? Now, of course, now there's been a lot more recent allegations that have come out and recent arrests of a lot of teachers, female teachers, for being disgusting and exploiting young men, right? In terms of like understanding the perspective of what the student was going through and the victim and the survivor and all the conflicting emotions that you're feeling of seemingly from your perspective, you feel like you're in a relationship. You feel like this guy, this girl, whatever, is amazing, and you feel special because they picked you, because that's what they do. They make you feel special, and that's what he did. He said, "No, I'm gonna make prom night." I mean, I don't know. I'm speculating, but it feels like this might have been her prom night. We're gonna make it really memorable for you. How disgusting. On February 11th, 2020, so this is where we kicked off at the top of the video, Birchmore and Farwell discussed the exact day that Farwell took her innocence. So these are the messages. Birchmore: "I had butterflies so bad the day you took my innocence." Farwell: "Me too. It was such a big day." Birchmore: "Still know the date to this day." Like, how innocent too. Like this is a big moment for young people, right? This is when you really cross into starting to become a young man, woman, person, right? Such a special moment for a lot of people. Sometimes comical, sometimes funny. We all remember our first time, right? and he ruined it for her. But to her, in her brain, because of the manipulation that she has been through, the exploiting that she's experienced from this deplorable human being, she believes this to be a special day for her, something that she'll never forget. And he doesn't even remember. He doesn't care. Like, he does not respect her. He doesn't care. Really? He asks. Birchmore, yes. Farwell, smiley face. Birchmore, that's not a date I'll ever forget. It was April 10th, 2013. And remember at the top of the video, just 1 month later, guess what, folks? Guess what he was doing? Officer Matt Farwell on his wedding to his new wife, Michelle. This piece of human garbage. My God, how sick you are. How sick. I feel so awful for his wife. Birchmore, best day of my life. Face with a heart emoji. Farwell, me too. Sure. Sure it was, Matt. Sure it was, Matthew. Good old boy, Farwell. On June 19, 2020, Birchmore and Farwell had the following conversation in which Farwell reminisced about his past criminal, gross exploitation of Birchmore. This should be great. I'm glad you agreed to take my innocence, though. Me too, he says. I don't know what this is. I'm assuming it's a picture or maybe perhaps a series of emojis, maybe a GIF of some sorts. He goes on to say, LOL, if I pushed, I'd absolutely could have effed you without a sock from day one. I literally want to pull this man like out of every picture I've seen and literally just scream. You do not get worse than Matt Farwell. Birchmore, probably if you really pushed it. Like, again, guys, this is a huge trigger warning. If you got to dip out, I completely understand. And I'll link to maybe a slightly later video. I was kind of scared to say no in the beginning, not knowing how you'd take it. So, yeah, you would have got no sock. LOL. She was kind of scared to say no because she didn't know how he would take it. She didn't want to upset him. She wouldn't want to hurt his feelings. B. Other electronic messages confirm that Farwell exploited Birchmore when she was a child. Great. There's even more, folks. 22. Text messages between Birchmore and others confirm that Farwell was exploiting Birchmore as a child and had continued his exploitation with her until her death. For example, on October 5, 2020, Birchmore texted one of her friends here and after, so now she's over 21. Here and after person 1, that Farwell had been having exploitative activities with her for almost 10 years. And that Farwell had taken her innocence before she was 16. So people knew. People knew. And you know, it's interesting because I'm going to stop here for a quick second. Because there was also a clip that came out today showing that her cousins also knew. So family also knew too. Ready to have your gears grinded?
Used to have the pool. She spent a lot of time over here. Many summers. Used to have the pool in the backyard.
Family members cling to happier memories.
She was hilarious, and she was smart as a whip too. Oh my God, she was smart as a whip.
But it's been an emotional roller coaster for those who grew up loving and caring for Sandra Birchmore. For Colin Nee, finding out Wednesday that his second cousin was allegedly murdered by former Stoughton police officer Matthew Farwell came as no surprise.
One of the first things that crossed my mind, it wasn't suicide.
Nee says family knew about Farwell, who Birchmore met through a Police Explorer program. Federal investigators claim Farwell groomed Birchmore and started having sex with her when she was just 15 years old.
A couple years goes by, she slips out that she may or may not be having a relationship with one of the instructors. Family members are a little upset about it.
Colin Nee's wife, Kelly, says Birchmore told her that Farwell was the father of her unborn child.
We just all knew.
I just need to go back to that, like,
when she was just 15 years old.
A couple years goes by, she slips out that she may or may not be having a relationship with one of the instructors. Family members are a little upset about it.
so are you saying a few years went by?
Goes by.
Sex with her when she was just 15 years old.
A couple years goes by, she slips out that she may or may not be having a relationship with one of the instructors. Family members are a little upset about it.
Now, this could be completely, like, misunderstood, I guess, taken out of context. I'm not sure if he's referring to after she was 21 when she was pregnant and telling people that she was pregnant and he was a father. And that's when she's like, hey, by the way, this started happening when I was 15. I don't know. But from the way he's framing his answer, it sounds like family members knew while she was still underage. Now, according again to the Massachusetts state law, if you're not a mandated reporter, it doesn't matter as long as you're within that 10-year window, which nevertheless, Matthew Farwell was not, so he didn't even check that box. But if you are a mandated reporter, then it's a no-go, period, end of story. So regardless, if people knew, why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you report it?
Colin Nee's wife, Kelly, says Birchmore told her that Farwell was the father of her unborn child.
We just all knew he was the father. She's talked about him for years.
And she claims it wasn't the first time Birchmore was pregnant with his baby.
She had told me she had a miscarriage, and the father was a police officer.
Kelly Nee says Birchmore was first pregnant back in 2019, but lost the child. The second time in 2021, leading up to her death, she was elated.
She was sad that she had the miscarriage, you know. So when she finally got pregnant and everything was going well, right before she passed away, she was just so ecstatic that she was finally going to be a mother.
With Farwell in custody.
So, and then we saw that at the beginning of this video, him getting arrested, takedown by the SWAT team, the FBI. How disturbing is that? And I will say, again, from my own experience, when I was in a very similar situation as a child, ironically, not too much younger than Sandra was when this started, I would talk about my theater instructor all the time, or not instructor, but my theater director all the time. My family didn't like it. My sister was especially disturbed and expressed her concern. My sister's only a few years older, so at the time she was, I think, just getting out of high school, getting into college. So she was starting to understand how the world works. She understood that things weren't right. And she ended up ultimately being the person to report what was happening. And that for me is like something I'll never, ever forget. But that's why this disturbs me so much, is the fact that people knew. People knew what was going on, allegedly. That's the way it seems like from this interview. Am I wrong? That family members were upset about it. And I will say, for anybody out there who's watching who does have children and they are being supervised by adults, whether it's in school, whether it's in a after school activity, at their job, their part-time job, whatever the case is, summer camp, whatever the case. I'm not saying this is always the case, but again, from my own experiences and from what it seems like witnesses in this case, people who were close to Sandra were saying she would talk about him all the time. That for me is a red flag. That's a huge red flag. If your child's or family member or whatever, friends, is constantly talking about a man who is 10 plus years her senior, or even 5 years plus her senior. He's an adult and she's a teenager and she can't stop talking about how great he is. Just be on alert. That would be my recommendation. That for me is a huge red flag. On May 20th, 2020, Birchmore told another friend that she lost her innocence 5 days before the Boston Marathon bombing. Jesus. Also on October 5th, 2020, Birchmore prepared a draft text to Farwell's wife. Birchmore sent this draft to person 1. The text states in part, "I am just messaging to inform you that your husband, Matthew, has been out cheating on you since before you were even married. I am aware that Farwell and his wife got married in 2013, which again, we just saw from that tweet, before Birchmore turned 16. There is no known record indicating the draft message was sent to his wife." So we don't know, I guess, if she knew or didn't know. Who knows? We'll find out. Maybe. Other text messages between Farwell and Birchmore demonstrate his exploitation, interest in young people. Yay! Yay! On June 15, 2019, Farwell and Birchmore exchanged text messages in which they discussed role-playing during their next encounter. This is Jared Fogle vibes. Farwell asked Birchmore how old she was going to pretend to be during that encounter. When Birchmore responded 14, Farwell replied with a smiley face emoji. In another conversation between Farwell and Birchmore on the 21st of February in 2020, Farwell describes pinning Birchmore down during his exploitative acts and asks her Will you say, Matt, stop? I'm 13. I'm not ready for this. Oh my freaking God. Please stop. I am aware that this event took place on April 15th, 2013. So that was back to the footnote from when her innocence was taken. Another sip of water. I have also reviewed several text messages from 2020 in which Farwell instructs Birchmore to act as if he were her older brother, coming into her room at night to have gross exploitative and illegal acts with her. Like beyond, I mean, it's already illegal, but, well, not at this point because she's of age at this point, but I hate this man. I hate him so much. I thought I hated Wade Wilson, and I freaking do. I really freaking do. But I don't know. There's a special place in prison, my friend. And you know what? I think it would be too much of a kindness to you for you to get the DP. Just saying. But what say you guys? What say you? Witnesses confirm that Farwell cultivated a close relationship with Birchmore when she was a child. Red flag. Any close relationship with a child and you're an adult, red flag. And you know about it, friends and family. I understand if you were a child yourself. I've also been in that situation where I have witnessed one of my friends in high school getting into a relationship with somebody who was over 20 years old and not knowing what the heck to do about it. So I'm not going to necessarily throw the finger at, point the blame at her friends if they were young themselves, but for family members, that should send some alarm bells for you. That wouldn't. I'm going to be critical of them because there's nobody to protect her. She's a child. She doesn't need to have a close relationship with somebody who's an authority figure, somebody who's there to educate, to teach, to guide. Agents have interviewed one of Birchmore's friends, here and after person 2, regarding Birchmore's relationship with Farwell. Person 2 indicated that shortly before her death, Birchmore revealed to him/her that Farwell started having gross relations with Birchmore when she was 15. So they're just confirming what was already stated. So this is a second person. Agents have also interviewed one of Birchmore's relatives too, who have described being aware that Birchmore would meet with Farwell when Birchmore was I've got absolutely nothing to say. Specifically, this family member indicated that around the time Birchmore was a freshman in high school, she would tell him/her that she was meeting with Farwell so he could help her with her homework. That's when you step in as the family member and say, that seems a little bizarre. Isn't he your instructor at the Police Explorers program? Oh, because he wears a badge, right? He's a good guy. He's one of the good guys. If they need a little extra tutoring, you can hire a tutor. There's plenty of high school students who are willing to tutor younger underclassmen. That might be a little bit more appropriate than the guy who is supposed to help teach her about careers in becoming a police officer. Why is he meeting her outside of there? Privately. It fires me up so much because of my own experiences and literally being in a space with multiple adults who were witnessing the things that were happening to me and didn't say anything. In fact, they even bailed him out when he was arrested. So, adults, can we be adults and protect children? Can we just do that? Can we just do that? I have reviewed a text message exchange between Farwell and Birchmore from June 17th, 2019, where the two discuss how Farwell had helped her test prep at the library. Farwell told Birchmore that she should have told him that she was interested in having. This is melting my brain. I have reviewed a text message exchange between Farwell and Birchmore from June 17th, 2019, where the two discuss how Farwell had helped her test prep at the library. Oh, so he's reminiscing all the gross interactions he's had with her. Told Birchmore that she should have told him that she was interested in having gross encounters with him that day. Birchmore told him that she was scared to speak up, probably scared because she didn't want to actually do it. Probably that was why she didn't say that, you disgusting human being. Actually, you lost that title. You're not a human being. You were an animal. Depraved. Sick and twisted. Birchmore told him that she was scared to speak up. Farwell then asked her, "Did you think I wouldn't want to?" Birchmore responded, "Yes. And 'cause of my age. I didn't want you to be like, no, WTF." Farwell then told her, "I understand that. I don't think you understand anything, sir. I don't think you understand anything." In a conversation from April 5th, 2020, Farwell told Birchmore that he knew he wanted to take her innocence when he started helping her with schoolwork. Birchmore was a freshman. This is another footnote from September 2011 to June in 2012. Additionally, on February 21st, so we have more messages. Birchmore and Farwell reminisced about when they first became active. Birchmore, "I listened better back then, though." Farwell, "I wish it had been a year sooner after helping you study at the library." So you're already a sick human being, but now you're saying, "Oh, I wish that we had gotten started sooner." You still listen and give me whatever I want, baby. Birchmore, "I didn't even make you wait a year after that." This is so sad. This is so heartbreaking to read. Because she thinks she's doing the right thing. She thinks that she's pleasing him. And good. But I don't think you're going to get what you want next time. So, Farwell, "Of course I will. I'll just take it." Boy, I hope somebody says that to you in prison. Birchmore, "That's what you think. Good luck with that." Farwell, "What was the first day you said, 'OMG, I want this guy to be my first'?" Birchmore, "Yeah, so 2012, I finally decided that I was going to try and find a way to encounter you and just wasn't sure how." I don't know if you guys are getting this vibe, but I almost feel like this is so this is just a forced, her responding the way that he wants her to respond because he's in control. And of course she didn't know because she was a child. She was a child. How did you feel when I asked to make your dream come true? Farwell, amazing. Birchmore, good. Farwell, I absolutely would have in 12. Birchmore in 2012. So 2012, so that was 2 years. Yeah, so when she was 14. Because remember, he had her act out that disgusting fantasy of his. 30 agents have also interviewed one of Birchmore's childhood friends here and after person 3. Person 3 confirmed that Birchmore would meet Farwell to help her with her homework. Person 3 indicated that Birchmore confided in him or her that she was meeting with Farwell in early high school to have gross encounters with him in his police car or his truck. Great. So this was a childhood friend. So I imagine she was also probably a teenager too. Evidence that Farwell committed federal offenses or possibly committed federal offenses by submitting false information to obtain wages. So now they just went through, the other 2 indictments. Now they're getting into the fraud stuff of the where and the when and what he was doing while you guys were paying him. How sick. Farwell defrauded the Staunton Police Department in town of Staunton. On multiple occasions, Farwell engaged in acts with Birchmore while on duty as a Staunton police officer. To cover this up, Farwell falsely represented that he had worked certain hours where in truth and in fact he was not working. Rather, he was engaging in acts or spending time with Birchmore. Accordingly, Farwell's misconduct was also part of a scheme to obtain wages from the Staunton Police Department, an agency of the town of Staunton, through false statements or material omissions regarding the hours he was on duty and working as a police officer. Oh, so now I guess they have all the timestamps of when he was clocking in, that he was working, but really wasn't. Farwell's text messages with Birchmore indicate that he had exploitative activities with Birchmore while he was on duty as a Staunton police officer. Text messages between Farwell and Birchmore indicate that on multiple occasions Farwell left work during his shifts to meet and at times engage in activity with Birchmore. These encounters occurred at various locations, including Birchmore's previous home in Staunton. This went on at her home? Her more recent apartment in Canton, a Costco parking lot in Staunton, and a Five Guys parking lot in Canton. Examples of dates and approximate start times of these encounters are listed here. So 11:46, 11:10, 7:14, 9:36. I mean, this looks like at least like 1 to 2 times a month. Jeez. Now we got multiple times in September, October. I mean, this is going to be huge, huge for the case. I've reviewed messages that reveal both Farwell and Birchmore knew that some of their encounters occurred while he was on duty. For example, on April 10th, 2020, Farwell wrote, "I'm going to sneak away from work quick." On November 24th, 2020, Birchmore asked if Farwell would be on duty when the two were scheduled to meet. He responded, "Yes, I will be on the clock." What an idiot. What an idiot. The text messages between Farwell and Birchmore, which precede several of the above listed encounters, contain statements indicating that the purpose for at least some of the encounters were to engage in acts. For example, on several occasions, Farwell sent Birchmore text messages directing her to act as if she was being AR'd during the ensuing encounter. C. Farwell's scheme to defraud caused interstate wire communications. Tavistock pays Staunton police officers on a bi-weekly basis in or around 2020 and 2021. Farwell received his paychecks via direct deposit to his account at USAA Federal Savings Bank. Paycheck funds originated with Rockland Trust, yada, yada, yada. Okay, cool. Each ACH transfer originated outside of Massachusetts and or traveled through another state before terminating in Farwell's account. Accordingly, it appears that by engaging in conduct when he should have been performing official duties as a police officer and, I don't know, maybe not R-ing a child, and obtaining pay for that time, Farwell may have committed wire fraud. Such a great guy. Such a great guy. Hey, meet my husband, Matthew Farwell. Stand-up guy, Staunton police detective. Defrauding the entire department. Defrauding the people of Massachusetts. Defrauding the people of Staunton. Farwell unalived Birchmore to prevent her from disclosing information about his commission of federal crimes and possible commission of federal crimes. As described in detail below, there is evidence that Farwell unalived Birchmore on February 1st to prevent her from disclosing information about his possible commission of the federal crimes listed above. So now we're going to get into Sandra's pregnancy. On October 5th, 2020, Person 1 told Birchmore that Farwell's wife was pregnant with the couple's third child. Person 1 indicated that the baby was due on February 2021. Birchmore responded that she was going to tell Farwell's wife that he had been having exploitative acts with her for nearly 10 years. In summary, electronic messages between Farwell and Birchmore for the period beginning on or about October 5th through January 2021 indicate that Birchmore presented Farwell with an ultimatum. Farwell would have to agree to engage in unprotected gross relations with Birchmore with the goal of conceiving a child. And in return, Birchmore would not disclose their relationship. Birchmore had already told others that Farwell had been having acts with her since before she was. It's like she's going on and on and on, telling people, like, why is nobody saying anything? But she knew it was a crime. So she's realizing, yeah, this isn't right. This is wrong. And Birchmore knew that Farwell was leaving work to have acts with her while he was on duty as a Staunton police officer. According to text messages between Farwell and Birchmore, Birchmore sent Farwell a photo of her ovulation schedule, and the two started discussing timing their encounters around specific times in Birchmore's cycle. Approximately 1 week after Farwell agreed to have unprotected you-know-what in order to conceive a child, Farwell and Birchmore had a disagreement about the terms of their agreement. Following is an excerpt from that conversation on October 12th, 2020. Farwell, I said the agreement was once that was our compromise, okay? Birchmore, I asked if we could try this month, didn't realize that meant you F me once, LOL. And then I asked if we could try through this year, and you said I'd think about it. So now it seems like he's kind of pulling back, like, since she brought up this thing, because now she's trying to pull the power wheel move. She's trying to get control. She's trying to take back control that she didn't have for all those years that you were being a disgusting human being towards her. all those years that you were ABUSINGing her and Ring her and brooming her, which all those like variations of those words that I just said sound absolutely ridiculous, but again, YouTube stinks. Conversation continued on October 13th, 2020. Our compromise was try once. That was what Farwell said. Birchmore, yeah, it was tried this month. Birchmore, so you're thinking about the second thing I said as far as the rest of the year. Farwell, you said tried it once this month. If it happens, it's meant to be. Those are the exact words. Text messages indicate that a few weeks later, Birchmore continued to discuss trying to get pregnant. On November 3, 2020, she asked Farwell if they could try again that month or whether they would need to talk in person about that. Farwell responded that an in-person discussion. On November 5th, 2020, Birchmore asked Farwell if he had given any more thought to their prior conversation. And told him that she thought of a way they could both be happy. Birchmore, how would you feel about us having a baby, you being there, and signing the birth certificate? There's never going to be a need for your information anyway, so you'll be safe there, and I won't talk crap about her or your kids That way we both get what we want. You asked me the other day what I wanted, and I didn't want to give it to you in the form of an ultimatum, so I'm trying to do it with you as a compromise type of thing. Can you tell me what you thought of? Birchmore, I'm down for discussing it in person, but the more I thought about it, you signing it really isn't going to have an impact on you because of the way things are going to fall in the future. I wonder what that means. I think that's, I wonder what that means. So, like, was he leading her to believe that he was going to leave his wife? I'm down for discussing it in person, but the more I thought about it, you signing it really isn't going to have an impact on you because of the way things are going to fall in the future. That's also a very eerie statement, considering what we know happens. But the fact, I mean, I feel like he was probably leading her on, just like, most of these people do in these situations, that he's going to leave his wife for her and they're going to be one big happy family. Yeah, sure. Okay, Matty boy. Farwell. Okay, that's an in-person discussion. So again, him trying to take back control of like, no, we're going to only discuss this on my terms in person. And her reverting back to letting him have the control. In November 2020, after Birchmore learned that she was not yet pregnant, she asked Farwell about continuing to try to conceive for another month. On multiple occasions, Farwell told Birchmore that they would need to discuss that topic in person. So this is just recapping what we read. He continued to meet with her in person. Text messages would suggest they remained active. On the 28th of December, Birchmore sent Farwell a text message informing him that she was pregnant. She sent him a photo of a poster she made to celebrate the pregnancy. This is just so sad. And like the thing about all this, sorry guys, I gotta stand, my neck hurts. The thing that like disturbs me about this, the fact that she made him this poster and it's got like stickers on it, like colored, and it's just so innocent. It's like obviously at this point she's an adult, right? But she's still very much behaving like a child because she didn't get to mature emotionally in the appropriate way that most of us get to. I mean, this is her innocence. Stickers, arts and crafts. I mean, it's really hard to get through, guys. Farwell's immediate response to Birchmore's disclosure about the pregnancy was, "I literally have nothing to say right now. How could you express that in a text when I said I don't appreciate it?" Wow. You know what we don't appreciate and what Sandra didn't appreciate, Matthew? I don't know, maybe you, like, R-ing her for all those years when she was a child. I don't think she really appreciated that. And then treating her like absolute trash because she tried to take back the one thing that you took away from her. So, yeah, I don't think she really appreciated that, you schmuck. Farwell, how far are you? Birchmore, regardless of how far, we're keeping it, but 3.5 weeks, which means I conceived this month. Farwell, okay, we'll need to talk then. Birchmore, no crap, that's obvious. And the birth certificate is being signed, or hers isn't. So going to this footnote, at the time of these text messages, I know Farwell's wife was 8 months pregnant. With his third child. This poor freaking woman. Based on the context of these texts and prior messages, I believe Birchmore was referring to the birth certificate for the child that Farwell's wife was then carrying. And that's kind of what I inferred too. So that's what this means. And the birth certificate is being signed or hers isn't. So, like, either you're going to sign this birth certificate and do, I can't even say the right thing. Like, just, this whole thing is frustrating. Or his wife's, or he's not signing his wife's. No, I'm mad you're acting how, oh, maybe this is like skipping through some other stuff. I don't know. That's what maybe these stars are. No, I'm mad you're acting how you are over a choice we both made. Farwell, I'm mad you act like you gave anyone a choice. Guess what, dude? Guess who never had a choice? Sandra. Sandra never had a frickin' choice. The gall of this man. The absolute gall of this human poop stain. I'm mad you act like you gave anyone a choice. Go screw yourself, dude. LMAO, so you didn't have a choice? Question mark. Per usual, you make and do whatever you want. Actually, no, sir. It seems like you do whatever you want. As per all the evidence laid out, and we're only 17 pages in. We're 17 pages in, and there's more. There's more of this. All I did was say, can I have it? You said, have what? And I said, you know what I'm asking for. And you stood up and said, yeah. You've been doing that. You mad she's due in February and I'm in September, and you don't know how you're going to be there for both of us. And you need to be there during labor for me too. Because your kid should matter. Late August to early September. You are truly the worst person on the face of the earth. No, I think we can all agree that award goes to you, sir. You are the worst human being. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Let me quote this directly. You are truly the worst person on the face of the earth, you mother. I hate this man. Oh, I hate this man. I hate this man. I hate this man. I hate this man. After the foregoing conversation, Birchmore again threatened to expose the truth about his ABUSE and their ongoing relationship. Farwell responded by indicating that Birchmore had threatened him, causing him to agree to impregnate her. Wah, poor me, I'm Matthew Farwell. My life's so hard. Wah. For the past week, so this is from this douche canoe. For the past week and a half, the doctor wasn't right, but now she was, and you just throw it at me because now you've got me. You honestly have absolutely no idea how to treat people. The absolute gall of this guy. Holy crap. I have effing bent over backwards for you. No. I would choose your words carefully now. Now you want to act like this was some free will decision? You have threatened me from the word go if I didn't do. Do you even know how to, like, write a text message, sir? What are you trying to say here? And give you what you wanted, you would ruin me. Didn't do and give you. Okay, word, if I didn't do and give you what you wanted, you would ruin me. I made a deal with you and you changed the terms every turn. We will deal with this tomorrow. So again, he's trying to desperately get back control. Because now she's saying, no, I'm speaking up. This is bull. This is absolute BS. I'm over your bull crap. Farwell's escalating physical violence. On December 29th, Farwell and Birchmore met to talk in person. After this meeting, Birchmore sent Farwell a text alluding to a physical encounter. Birchmore, it made me really uncomfortable and stressed out and scared when you were next to me because I thought you were going to hit me after you said what you said and took things out on my hand. That's why I was crying. I know you wouldn't, but it still scared me. And notice how she's constantly saying, I was scared to tell you this because I didn't want to upset you or I didn't know how you would take it. I know you wouldn't, but... So not only is he R-ing her and brooming her since she was a child, but he's also hurting her. He's also hitting her. What a great freaking man. Father of the year. How is this man a father? It is like the most shocking thing to me. How is he a father? At least 3 witnesses have disclosed that in the weeks before her death, Birchmore told them that Farwell was physically violent. When Birchmore and Farwell discussed the pregnancy, according to death records, Birchmore was 4'10". Oh my God, she was a tiny little thing. Military records indicate that Farwell is 6'4". Yeah, he's a big dude. Let me pause. Person 2 reported that in the weeks prior to Birchmore's death, she was over the moon about her pregnancy. A lot of stuff that we've heard before that's been reported. According to person 2, Birchmore had decreased her coffee consumption to discuss winter clothes for her future baby. So essentially doing all the things that any woman who just gets pregnant and is excited to have her first child is going through. I mean, imagine the excitement that she was feeling because, yeah, she wanted to be a mother. And I do find it interesting that she wanted to be a mother this young. And of course, I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not going to like assume I know anything, but I'd be curious as to why she was so ready to have a child, and if maybe in some way she felt like she wanted to have a child to have control so that she could protect the child in a way that she wasn't protected herself when she was a child. I don't know. That's what I'm speculating, but there's no way to obviously know. But I mean, she was pretty young mom in today's standards. I know back in the day, a lot of people were popping out kids when they were in their early 20s, but nowadays, especially in 2020, while selecting baby clothes, person 2 indicated that Birchmore was nervous about telling Farwell about the pregnancy, but she eventually did. On January 21, Birchmore called person 2 and stated that after telling Farwell about the baby, he told her he wished she would, oh my God, she would just die, and he wants nothing to do with the baby. According to the information Birchmore shared with person 2, Farwell put Birchmore in a headlock and grabbed her cell phone from her hand. Person 2 told Birchmore to distance herself from Farwell, given that he was dangerous, a police officer, and obviously didn't care about the law. No, clearly. And obviously didn't have any regard towards other human beings either, because he's a depraved son of a you know what. However, person 2 was also aware that Birchmore appeared to be attached to Farwell. Yeah, because and not only that, I mean that too, that alone, I mean, because that's like a, so you guys know, that's a special moment. Like I said in the earlier in this video, that's a special moment, especially for women too. It's very vulnerable, right? The first time you lose your innocence, and I can understand, like you'll never forget your first. But in this case, he also happens to be her monster. And for that too, I mean, it's more than that, because it's been spanning for years and years. It's more than just this. This is something that's been going on for nearly 10 years. Person 3 also indicated that in the days before her death, Birchmore disclosed that Farwell had been violent. Approximately 10 days before her death, Birchmore and person 3 went to Walmart to buy a baby stroller for Birchmore's future child. Birchmore was excited about the baby and asked person 3 to be the child's godmother. Birchmore told person 3 that the day prior, Farwell had gotten angry with her for showing him a fetal sonogram. According to Birchmore, Farwell told her, "That's not my child. I don't want anything really to do with you." And then Farwell pushed her to the ground. Person 3 told Birchmore to end their relationship with Farwell. Person 3 indicated that Birchmore seemed scared but not ready to leave Farwell, because Farwell had been such a big, yeah, I mean, he was the only guy she knew. I don't know if she had any other, and like that's the dangerous thing too, is uh, when you're in these long-term situations, you don't know. You don't know anybody else. You don't know anything else other than this. This is your normal. And I can't imagine the inner dialogue she was having about, well, not only am I going to be a single mother to a man who I thought loved and cared about me, who I love and care about, the only person I know, the only person I felt safe in discovering who I am as a woman, and my body, and learning about myself. That's the only experience she knows. And now he's like, "I don't want anything to do with you." I mean, I can't imagine the amount of conflicting feelings she was feeling at this point. It's not cut and dry, guys. If you haven't been in this situation, it's really hard to be like, "Yeah, I'll just leave, it's fine. I can do this on my own. I'll end the relationship." Because now it's more than just the R-ing, the brooming since she was a kid. Now it's also a DV relationship. It's a whole cluster F of things. I cannot imagine what she was going through. How scared, how alone she must have felt. Additionally, person 7, oh my god, there's a lot of people. Damn. Oh, therapist. Oh, this is going to be interesting. Reported that in the weeks before Birchmore's death, Birchmore reported to her that Farwell got upset about the impending pregnancy and shoved her. So, okay, but I wonder how much or how little this therapist knew. And why the therapist didn't. I mean, it says she reported. Oh no, Birchmore reported to her. Let's continue reading. But I mean, I'm outraged that the therapist, you have a legal obligation, a moral and ethical obligation to disclose this information. if you knew about the relationship. And now there's violence too. Potential physical threats where he's telling her, "I wish you would die." In addition to these descriptions of Farwell's violence targeting Birchmore from person 2, person 3, and person 7, Birchmore's text messages to person 1 further confirm Farwell. So I guess these are all friends. Actually, no, I think I think these are all friends. I don't think these are family members or relatives. One might be. Further confirm Farwell's escalating violence. On January 10th, 21, Birchmore sent person 1 a text message indicating that she recently argued with Farwell. Birchmore told person 1 that during the argument, Farwell took her cell phone out of her hand 3 times and refused to give it back to her. Birchmore also indicated that Farwell took her computer out of her hand and used his body to shove. Why are you taking her phone and her computer, you freaking weirdo? And shoving her? Because she's small? Because you're a big man and you think it's okay to, 1, be a disgusting monster to children, and 2, to hurt women. Like, what is your thing? So again, like the Wade Wilson jailhouse call recording that we went over in yesterday's video, when his biological dad is asking him, "What's your issue with women? What is your issue with women, Matthew? What's your issue? What's your issue with children? What is wrong with you?" That's how you sum up all of that. What is actually wrong with you? And you know what? I don't even care what's wrong with you because you're a monster. And I hope you rot in prison. January 21, there was increasing pressure on Farwell. In January 21, the pressure on Farwell increased as a result of Birchmore's pregnancy. Birchmore tried to communicate with Farwell regarding her due date, ultrasounds, genetic testing, gender reveals, and doctor appointments. So again, like trying to normalize this totally not normal situation by doing all the things every single woman who is pregnant and excited to have their first child. The gender reveal and genetic testing, that's going to be big, right? Doing a paternity test, right? Pull a Maury Povich. You are the father, Matthew. You are the father. In his text responses, Farwell was unresponsive to or dismissive on those topics, or he appeared to ignore them. January 4th, 21, Birchmore told Farwell that she was going to the doctor the next day and asked if he wanted to know how the appointment went. Farwell did not directly respond to that question. On January 5th, 2021, Birchmore asked Farwell to come over so they could discuss her estimated due date, the week of her first ultrasound, her conversation with her doctor, and her first appointment. Farwell did not respond directly to that request. Text messages from January 3rd, 21 show that Birchmore asked Farwell if the child could have his last name. However, he told her he would not discuss that issue via text message. Like, you're already texting her. Like, you have all these text messages that, you're a police officer, you dumb F-U-C-K. Like, you know that you know, right? You're a detective. Nonetheless, not even you're just a police officer, you're a freaking detective. And you mean to tell me that they can't extract your text message exchange between you and Sandra from all those years on Facebook too? Like, what a freaking idiot. But now you're like, oh, I gotta put this is where I draw the line. We can't talk about the pregnancy over text. Footnote. Farwell's reluctance to discuss the pregnancy via text is significant because it's inconsistent with Farwell and Birchmore's long history of text. That's what I'm saying regarding seemingly private topics. Yes, the talk about the library, right? Or how you wished that you would have effed her without putting a rubber on. and how you wish that she was a year younger when you first assaulted her. For example, there are hundreds of thousands of text messages between the two in which Farwell discusses details regarding his work as a police officer, his fantasies that were predominantly violent, and included many references to choking and and graphic details about their previous encounters. Yeah, but now you got to put a hard stop to things, right? Now it's about the baby. It's going to get me in trouble. No, I think everything else leading up to this moment. This is the least of your concern, buddy. So I have a compromise for you. You don't need to sign the certificate because of the baby can have your last name. Not discussing in text, we can talk in person. In another text message on January 6th, Birchmore began to ask Farwell what their family would look like. 1, you don't have to sign the certificate because I'm allowed to at least list you, and they can have your name, and I won't move to Staunton or blank the town where Farwell family resides. So I guess they're still there. 2, I won't I won't bitch about holidays, but I would like you to come a few days before Christmas and Easter so you can see what they get from me, and I don't want you to leave them out. And 3, if you want to try and support them, we can talk about that, but I do want you to see them. So in other words, hey, you knocked me up. I want you to be a dad. Like I need the support. And not for nothing too, right? Sandra I believe also didn't have a father in her life. So I'm pretty sure she wants that for her own child, right? I feel like I'm trying to be as fair as I can, which is so sad because it's like nothing that was done to her was fair by any means. And I want you there for the labor. That I'm standing my ground on. Last name. Farwell, okay, we can discuss this more in person. Birchmore, okay, I figured, does it sound okay to you? Like she's just trying to get something. It's a lot to think about. It's so much more than you have ever asked for. I'm sorry. The absolute gall of this man. She never asked for any of this, buddy. She never asked for any of this. The gall of you to say that. Birchmore, and still less than what any other girl would ask for, and still less than what you deserved. Honestly, Sandra, you deserve so much more. Life, hope, love, a family, a beautiful family, everything you wanted and more. A career, if you did want to, as a police officer. I'm sure she would have been great. Sick. Absolutely sick. On January 20th, 2021, person 2 called the Staunton Police Department, and in that call referenced the relationship between Birchmore and Farwell. After learning about this call, the fact of which suggested at least some aspects of Farwell's illicit conduct may have been exposed to the Staunton Police Department. Farwell sent Birchmore text messages revealing his extreme anger. Yeah, because now you're caught, buddy. He sent her a series of texts. But so now, because it's about you and your job, which you're defrauding nonetheless. You're defrauding them of money by clocking in and saying, yes, I'm on the clock, guys. I'm doing my job to serve and protect this community. But let me just hit up my squad vehicle so I can be a monster for a few minutes and fulfill my fantasies. But now he answers her texts. Okay. The expletive is telling Birchmore that he thought no one knew about their relationship and that she had no clue how bad this was, and indicating that he does not know if he needs to worry about other disclosures. Dude, your effing friend called my job, Sandra. What the F? Question mark. Your friend, person two's name, just called my effing work to complain about me. What? What the F? Birchmore, I don't know. Farwell, what do you mean you don't know? Birchmore, I literally just woke up. Farwell, did you steal from her? Like, what? Birchmore, nope. What is going on? You also told me that no one knew about us, yet she claimed we are. Birchmore, it's literally nothing. Farwell, it's not nothing. Now you can't shut his yapper, right? She called my job. That's insane. You know what's insane? We already know. Why would she call and drop my effing name, Sandra? Like, what do I have to do with you not giving her something? She said she didn't steal. Like, where is that coming from? Farwell, like, you have no idea how bad what she did is. How about how bad of what you did? Like, where's the accountability, sir? Matthew, I literally can't believe this is even real life. What else do I have to worry about now? Which other friend will do something tomorrow? Poor Matthew. Poor, pitiful me. You sick mofo. During this investigation, I have interviewed person 5, an employee of the Staunton Police Department. Oh, snap. So I guess, yeah, that was the call. From person 2 on January 20th. So there's a footnote. We like footnotes. What does this one say? Person 5 did not have an independent memory of the date of the call, but I have confirmed such date through business records. I mean, I don't know. If I got a call like that, I probably remember, but if it was about my buddy. Person 5 indicated that he or she excuse me, took down person 2's name and information and gave it to Farwell. Person 5 indicated that he or she took down person 2's name and information and gave it to Farwell. So I'm fairly certain there's probably certain protocols to like situations like that when there's a complaint that's made. Like, one has to wonder, right? The chain of custody, right? The chain of command. Wouldn't you probably, the appropriate action would be to report it to your supervisor? And then from there say, hey, I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm going to hand it over to you now. So you can do some investigating. See what's up. But no, this a-hole says, oh, Matt. And I'm kind of inclined to believe that person 5 may or may not have known about this, about Farwell's history with Sandra. That's just my speculation there, though. Farwell immediately got angry and pissed off and ordered person 5 not to speak about this to anyone, never to talk about it again. So, I mean, I guess to his, maybe he didn't know, but clearly they're buddies. Clearly they're close to an extent where he felt the appropriate action would be to give his buddy the heads up. You are just as deplorable as him. I'm sorry, you are. Person 5 described Farwell's reaction as atypical and not consistent with his normal behavior. Birchmore's final days, January 24th. Approximately 1 week prior to her death, she communicated with person 8 about Farwell. So this is probably when she's saying, like, oh, I'm, a little scared. Birchmore, so the father came by last night. It was like a complete 360 change. Person 8, 180. Yeah, LOL. I do that all the time. Good or bad? Good, but unexpected. So it kind of threw me off and made me a little uncomfortable. But that's because of how things were going. He asked me if I'd give him a key and said that if I keep it a secret, he'll be around and see them and all that. So I guess she's talking about the baby. So it's somewhere. Then he looked in my closet and then the bathroom, but IDK, why? I haven't figured that out. So he's totally premeditating what he's going to do next. This is like, please tell us. Tell us what is happening. She predicted this. She predicted it. She knew something was wrong. And what did everybody around her do? Nothing. We started to heart then work called him, so he had to leave. Oh, and he brought me a ginger ale because I ran out. Person 8, what about the birth certificate? Birchmore, I think he's signing it, not sure. He's coming back again this week. But it was like a complete 180 from where we were at. So she's thinking, oh, maybe he's like changed his mind. Maybe he's gonna show up and be there around for us. Based on my training and experience, I believe that Farwell's shift in demeanor on or about the state was an attempt to appease Birchmore until he could unalive her. Yep. Additionally, the foregoing text messages, considered in light of the other evidence, suggest that Farwell was making a plan to unalive her. Part of the plan included asking Birchmore to give him a key and keep it a secret. So that's why when he went up, I guess he had a key. But I mean, nonetheless, she probably, if you did stop by, she would have let you in. Unless he was laying out I don't know. Unless he was gonna go there and like that's interesting too, because I almost wonder if he was planning on stopping by there when she was not home and she was out and about doing, errands or whatever. I don't Does anybody know what she was doing for a living? How she was making money? Earning money at that time? I don't know if I've read that yet. But I'm almost curious if that's why he wanted a key. To stake out the place when she wasn't home so he could get everything into place. Because he was in and out of there pretty quickly when we were looking at the timestamps, right? It looked like it was like 20 to 30 minutes to get it all done. So, I don't know. Another part of the plan was inspecting various rooms of Birchmore's apartment, including the closet, to determine where they contained items or presented options for how and when. So yeah, he was scouting her apartment specifically so he could use supplies that was in her house, so it would look more like it was something she did to herself. On February 4th, Canton police found, there we go, our brothers from Canton Police found Birchmore's body next to the closet door with a duffel bag strap around her neck. The strap was wrapped around the closet door handle. So bizarre, like how anybody ever thought this was not thought, but covered it up. Because that's what they do in Canton. They cover it up. They help cover it up. Farwell's request for a key for Birchmore's apartment in the week leading up to her death is corroborated with other evidence. I've reviewed text messages between Farwell and Birchmore from January 24th, in which Birchmore gave Farwell the passcode to her building's front door and told him, I have your key to you when you want it. Additionally, I have reviewed records from Walmart suggesting that Birchmore did, in fact, pay approximately $2 to have the key at approximately 11:10 a.m. So maybe he was going over there too to pick up his key. Who knows? Oh no, I'm sorry. No, that's not incorrect. That's incorrect. According to text messages Birchmore and Farwell exchanged on January 29th, Birchmore again gave Farwell the passcode to her building's front door. Farwell verified the code was the general one to give the entire building, not just one assigned to her. Farwell requesting or accepting a key to Birchmore's apartment was a sudden change from recent conversations. Yep, and she knew it too. I have reviewed the text messages between them, one as recent as October 14th, 2020, which Farwell told her he did not think it was a good idea for him to keep a key to her new Canton apartment. In a conversation with her friend, Person 9, on January 24th, Birchmore indicated that she was surprised that Farwell was now requesting a key to her apartment too. I'm also curious too, like again, I don't know how much it is to live in her complex or not, but I'm curious what she did for a living. Or if there was any I mean, so far there's nothing in here where he was paying or buying things for her. Person 9, did it go good with him? Birchmore, I got hit with a shocker question. Can I call you? So what really well surprisingly he asked if he could have a key. I am basically said he'll be around as long as I keep it a secret and don't tell anybody. But he did admit that I do have the upper hand in the situation, which isn't a good thing, but I'm trying to and not be that person, if you know what I mean. That's a really interesting that's really interesting. But he did admit that I do have the upper hand in the situation, which isn't a good thing. So by him admitting you have control over this situation, she knew that was not a good thing. That meant something potentially nefarious. I don't know if she was thinking that in that moment. If she knew. I don't know. But she was clearly onto something and clearly uncomfortable and afraid, it seems. Trying to and not be the person, if you know what I mean. I get it. Are you going to give him a key? I just made a copy of it. Yeah, that's good. I'm going to give it to him. Yeah, but he also bought me a ginger ale last night like I asked him to. He's coming around. A lot more than I thought he was going to, yes. I still have to verify the PIN for him to get into the apartment if he rings me and I don't answer. But I think last night he opened my closet door for something, and then he went into my bathroom looking at my bathroom, and then I have a dolly in my living room, and he asked why I had it. It was just really odd. He started looking around. I don't know. That's weird. Yeah, it was really weird. According to text messages between Farwell and Birchmore 2 days before her death, she continued to engage Farwell about planning for the birth of their child. On January 30th, 2021, Birchmore asked Farwell if she could tell him the baby name she was considering. Farwell told her he would rather discuss that topic in person. Leading up to February 1st, Birchmore planned for other important baby-related events, such as who would care for her cats when she went into labor. Like, what a sweet and innocent thing. I cannot. This is so sad. This planning is of note because it indicates that shortly before her death, Birchmore was doing the thing. So again, they're trying to prove that, because this is what his attorneys are going to say is, oh, well, I don't even know. Like, how do you even prove that she was potentially, like, that is such a difficult thing to prove, period. Because depression doesn't have a one size fits all look, right? But they're essentially saying that by her planning for the future and being excited about the baby, she wasn't in a state of mind where she was looking to end her life. It is also important because it reveals a level of care for her pets, and that is inconsistent with the circumstances of her death. Specifically, when police found her body in her apartment on February 4th, her cats were present. She had made no arrangements for that. That is so heartbreaking, too. They were probably like, oh my God, that's so heartbreaking. And I love that she loves cats because I am a cat person. And that is so upsetting. Yeah, if you have fur babies, you would never like anybody who has fur babies and isn't a deplorable human being like Matthew Farwell actually cares about, I don't know, humans and then the life of living things such as animals. Um, if she was in fact planning on doing this, and I think this is a great point, she would have made some kind of arrangement, give it up for adoption or however many cats she had. So that's a great point. Leading up to February 1st, Birchmore planned for other important baby-related events. Again, so we talked about this. She ordered baby items and conducted Google searches related to her pregnancy and future child rearing decisions. She also planned for newborn baby photos and official pregnancy announcement, which she planned to do on Valentine's Day, as well as a gender reveal. She also made plans for her more immediate future, scheduling an OBGYN appointment on February 10th and asking Farwell to help shovel. Yeah, that's not somebody who's looking to end their life from the way it sounds, the way it looks. To help shovel out her car during the impending snowstorm. There's another footnote. During the investigation, agents also learned that Birchmore had been taking classes in preparation for applying to nursing. Oh, so she was going to go to nursing school. That's good. That's awesome. So she was looking to do something productive with society. And what were you doing, Matthew Farwell? So now this is the day that Sandra Birchmore was unalived by Matthew Farwell. 12:19 on February 1st, Birchmore sent a farewell text indicating that she was going to be released early at 12:35 from her job. Okay, so she did. Oh, she worked at a public school. Okay. Farwell told her that he would not be in that area today. So this is 12:35. Well, 12:19, she texts him. She says she's going to be out by 12:35. Later in the afternoon on February 1st, 2021, Birchmore told Farwell that she had received an early gift in the mail and that she was not planning to have a baby shower until late March because of the then ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. She told Farwell that once she learned whether they were having a boy or a girl, she wanted him to purchase clothes for the child to wear when he or she came home from the hospital. Investigators have reviewed surveillance videos from Birchmore's Canton apartment building, which we just saw on February 1st. Oh, sorry, let me go to the footnote. I'm aware of the electronic timestamp on the apartment complex's video surveillance system was off by approximately. Okay. So instead of, what did we say, like 12:28:06 or whatever, add 13 minutes to that, and then the 12:58 or not 12:58, excuse me, 21. Sorry, sometimes a little dyslexic. 21:58. So add 13 minutes to that for this 13-minute difference, and are therefore the appropriate real times of the events. Okay. Okay, so what they're saying in the affidavit, in other words, is these are the accurate times via the 13-minute time difference. February 1st, 2021, she's seen on the video at 5:01, accepting a DoorDash order, then again going outside briefly and returning with a snow brush at 5:31 p.m. and 5:33 p.m. respectively. Sorry. The last time Birchmore is seen alive on the video is on February 1st, 21 at 5:33 p.m. Later that evening at approximately 9:08 p.m., Farwell sent Birchmore a text message asking whether if he could come by for a second. At 9:10 p.m., Birchmore sent Farwell a text indicating that when he arrived at her apartment, the door would be open for him. This is the last known outgoing message from Birchmore's cell phone. The surveillance video shows Farwell entering Birchmore's Canton apartment building at 9:14. Footnote, I have reviewed Massachusetts State Police investigative reports which tentatively identify Farwell as the person on the surveillance footage entering Birchmore's apartment. This is a whole freaking footnote. With a face mask, we saw that. I have interviewed multiple witnesses who have each indicated that Farwell resisted wearing a face mask during the pandemic. One of these witnesses stated that Farwell would only wear a mask when on duty and required by department policy to do so. The video surveillance recording shows that Farwell left Birchmore's apartment at 9:43 p.m. So likely they're going to pull the Robert Tellis thing, right? And be like, he was wearing a hood, except in this case, they'll be like, well, he never wore a mask. But why would somebody want to cover their face if they never typically wear a mask? And that one particular time that they're wearing a mask outside of their shift while they're on duty. And this is the only time that they really do it. Probably because they're going to do something nefarious, no? That's what I would think. surveillance video. Oh, yeah. Wearing street clothes, a hoodie. Yeah, we read all this. One of the witnesses stated that Farwell would not only wear. Yeah, we just read that. Sorry. Canton police officers found Birchmore's body on February 4th. February 4th, 2021, Canton police officers conducted a well-being check at her apartment. One of her coworkers called the police because Birchmore had failed to show up for work that day. Officers arrived. They found Birchmore's body seated on the floor in a reclined position with a double bag strap tied around her neck. That strap was connected to her closet doorknob. The closet that Farwell had inspected approximately 1 week earlier. At least one first responder quickly concluded that Birchmore had been deceased for days. I have reviewed crime scene photographs that depict her wearing the same clothing that she wore, which is when she is seen in the video entering her apartment on the 1st, 2021 at 5:33. This is consistent with Birchmore having died later the same evening. According to police reports, when Birchmore's body was found, her cell phone was on the floor located approximately 12 inches from her right hand. Okay, so this interesting. Because remember, too, like when they got into that one fight and like what he smacked her cell phone or something out of her hand or took her cell phone. 12 inches from her right hand and 6 inches from her bent right knee. February 1st, 21. I have also reviewed a report regarding state police detectives' interviews of Farwell, in which Farwell admitted that he went to Birchmore's apartment on February 1st, which we've heard from other reports. In that interview, Farwell stated that he had been there between 9:10 and 9:30 p.m. So 9:10 and 9:30, and just to go. Yeah, I mean, that does line up. Well, so they're saying she texted him at 9:10, right? But I mean, he was there. He was there between 9:10 and 9:30. But he's trying to squeeze, like, I guess, reduce the amount of time that he was there, maybe? Okay, yeah. I reviewed the data on Birchmore's phone. A log report indicates that the phone was locked from 9:13 on February 1st, 21, till the device powered off because of battery loss on February 3rd. February 1st, yeah, and her body was only discovered on the 4th. On February 1st, while still locked, Birchmore's phone recorded a screenshot of a black screen at 9:18. In other words, after sending a final text message to Farwell to tell him the door was unlocked, Birchmore's phone locked and was not unlocked until after the device was recovered by police. Health data. Yes, health data. Apple health data. Let's go. On Birchmore's phone indicates that the last movement recorded by the phone on February 1st occurred at 9:40. That was 3 minutes before Farwell was captured on surveillance video leaving Birchmore's apartment. Specifically, this data indicates that the mechanisms that Apple uses to record movement registered 8 steps at approximately 9:40 p.m. The recorded steps. Oh, so wait, hold on. I gotta pause this. I gotta sit down. Sorry, y'all. I'm not in my usual filming room. My wife is sleeping, and you know what they say: happy wife, happy life. So sometimes you gotta give it up, right? Okay. Health data on Birchmore's phone indicates that the last movement recorded by the phone was on the 1st, which we read occurred at 9:40. There's a footnote. Did we read this? No. Based on my training and experience, I am aware that Apple iPhones can be used to track and retain health-related data of the user, included but not limited to steps taken. This is going to be so interesting, guys. This is going to be so interesting because they are going to have to call Nick Guarino from the Karen Reed case, who said on the stand that the steps or flights that were recorded of John O'Keefe could have been from a hill, from the street up the road. That guy. The guy that said F me on that hot mic drop moment. Can't wait for that. That was 3 minutes before Farwell was captured on surveillance video leaving Birchmore's apartment. Specifically, this data indicates that the mechanism that Apple uses to record movement registered 8 steps at approximately 9:40. So again, reading it because it's a lot. That was 3 minutes before Farwell was captured on surveillance. Okay, cool. So her last recorded movement was at 9:40. 3 minutes before that, he's on surveillance video. I don't know what floor she was on or how big that apartment complex was, but he hops in the elevator. He goes up. Specifically, this data indicates that the mechanism that Apple uses to record movement registered 8 steps at approximately 9:40. I mean, that's enough, where he's seemingly strangling her to death. These recorded steps occurred while Farwell was still in Birchmore's apartment, because he didn't leave. He didn't leave for 20, 30 minutes? Phone recorded no additional steps between 9:40 and the time it was recovered by first responders on February 4th. As noted above, first responders ultimately found the phone next to Birchmore's body. Based on my review of the frequency of Birchmore's phone use over weeks, months, and years leading up to her death, her failure to access her phone is inconsistent with her usual habits when alive and awake. I've interviewed multiple witnesses who have reported on Birchmore's frequent, almost incessant phone use. In fact, one witness referred to Birchmore's phone use as her third hand. And that would be easy to prove because you could just see how often she's texting people, track all of her data. That's very, very simple to prove that. I reviewed Birchmore's phone use from the hours leading up to her death on February 1st. Following are some of the items in Birchmore's phone data from the hours, so this will be interesting. For her death, this is the evidence that appears to be consistent with Birchmore, a pregnant woman choosing to die by unalivement that day, because that's what they ruled initially. 1:25 to 1:31, Birchmore communicated with a photographer regarding the timeline for booking a newborn photography shoot. 7:57 p.m., Birchmore texted a friend to obtain baby clothes from her. 8:25, Birchmore performed a Google search for Cubby Kids furniture. We love Google searches, don't you, Nick Guarino? We know how you love those. I wonder if they're going to call Ian Whippen again, right? Well, this time it'd be his attorneys. The condition of and items found in Birchmore's apartment were inconsistent with Birchmore dying by unalivement, her own unalivement. I've interviewed family members who helped clean Birchmore's apartment in the days following her death. Some of the things they observed were also inconsistent with Birchmore deciding to die by taking her own life. For example, during their first visit, they noted that Birchmore had been in the middle of doing laundry when she died, with a load of wet clothes in the washing machine and another load dry in the dryer. Additionally, they observed a homemade sign saying, "Congratulations, you're going to be a father." That sign had an ultrasound photo on it, and it was sprinkled with glitter. Additionally, in Birchmore's apartment, family members observed a new baby stroller that was still in its package. They also observed homemade and store-bought onesies for a baby. One onesie read, "We're going to be parents," with a set of footprints underneath. Birchmore had packages that had been delivered recently, including clothing and other supplies for her baby. Birchmore had ordered items shortly before her death, and packages continued to arrive in the days following her death. Finally, family members found a necklace that belonged to Birchmore lying on the floor of her bedroom. This necklace consisted of a thin gold chain with a pink flamingo charm. Footnote: in my review of Birchmore's phone data, I noticed several photos of Birchmore in which she is wearing this necklace. Pink flamingo charm. Family members observed that the necklace's chain was broken, but not at the clasp. That's going to be interesting. There was also a large clump of hair on the chain. From my review of the crime scene photos, I observed that while the strap was still around Birchmore's neck, the necklace was broken and hanging from the left side of her neck, and the necklace's charm was on the right side of her abdomen. All right. Autopsy and medical evidence. An OCME pathologist, hereinafter the medical examiner that is not being named for whatever reason, speculation, performed an autopsy on Birchmore's body. The medical examiner determined that Birchmore's cause of death was asphyxia by hanging. Medical examiner ruled Birchmore's manner of death as a unaliving of herself. The medical examiner's written autopsy report noted that Birchmore's hyoid bone, a U-shaped bone at the front of the neck, is fractured on the right side and that she suffered from petechial, again, excuse my pronunciations, hemorrhages of the bulbar and palpebral I'm not even going to go and try and pronounce all this, but I'm sure when it goes to trial, we'll all see like what exactly the God, I can't think of the word, so late. But you know what I mean. They'll be able to show us and point. Additionally, the medical examiner concluded that Birchmore had a hemorrhage of her left sternothyroid muscle. Medical examiner's autopsy report further confirmed that Birchmore was approximately 8 to 10 weeks pregnant at the time of her death. The autopsy included, and that's interesting too. Okay, so yeah, up to 26 weeks it's legal for you to get an abortion in Massachusetts. The reason why I wanted to look that up is because a lot of people were like, well, can he get charged with murder of two? It's very like Scott Peterson vibes and Lacey Peterson, where in that case, he was charged with both the murder of Lacey and baby Connor because she was far enough along. I also don't know what the laws were back then anyways in California, but probably. But in this case, no. Not in Massachusetts. So that's why he's only indicted on the one. Hope that clears that for folks who were curious about that. The autopsy included toxicology testing. The results of the toxicology test were negative for all substances except for sertraline, which is likely explained by the antidepressants she'd been described. That's interesting. That's very interesting. Which his defense is obviously going to lean hard on, too. She was depressed. She's taking antidepressants. Of course she unalived herself, which is so dim, but that I can see that being an argument that they make. As part of this investigation, the government retained Dr. William Smock as an expert to independently review the crime scene photos, autopsy photos, and the medical examiner's autopsy report. Because again, this is the FBI. They're like, yeah, we don't really. It smells in Stoughton. In fact, it smells in Massachusetts. Let's get somebody, an outsider, to look on in, right, and see what they think. See if they agree with your conclusion. Dr. Smock is an emergency medicine residency and forensic fellowship trained physician with more than 40 years of experience in the forensic evaluation of injuries, crime scenes. All right, so this is his background, his training. Sorry, I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit because it's getting late and we're almost at the end of this. Includes the emergency treatment. Okay, yeah. So this is all about his background. Based on his review of the evidence, Dr. Smock has made several observations and conclusions that call into question the prior finding that Birchmore's cause of death was unaliving, and instead further confirmed that Birchmore's cause of death was homicide. First, Dr. Smock concluded that the fracture of the right superior horn of Birchmore's hyoid bone is not consistent with the position in which first responders found her. A sitting hanging is called an incomplete hanging, meaning only partial body weight is applied to the neck ligature. Dr. Smock's review of hundreds of cases of hangings in the forensic medical literature found no cases of hyoid bone fractures in seated women. Fractures of the hyoid bone are more commonly seen in strangulation, assaults, and in the hangings with full body weight applied to the ligature, but not seated. I didn't know that. See, like, I never put two and two together that she was sitting. That's how he staged her, because I guess he was trying to find something that would hold, how sick and twisted, something that would hold her body weight. But I mean, being that she was in an apartment, that he probably was like, all right, well, I'll just, stage it like this. What a sick man. What a sick man. But thank God for idiots, right? Because they always get caught. During the autopsy, a pattern imprint was documented on Birchmore's right upper chest. The pattern imprint was the consequence of a buckle or buckles from the ligature strap being forced downward into Miss Birchmore's chest. The presence of this pattern imprint is not consistent with a ligature hanging. Rather, the presence of the pattern is consistent with blunt force trauma from an assault. When first responders found Birchmore's body, the buckle responsible for the imprint was observed just below her right ear. However, the location of the imprint on her chest is not consistent with an incomplete ligature hanging. So he's saying there's no way. There's no way this was physically possible that she unalived herself. He reviewed the autopsy photos that depict Birchmore with areas of skin missing from the inferior and lateral aspects of her nose consistent with abrasions. These types of injuries are commonly seen in cases of suffocation when the victims move their nose back and forth in an effort to breathe. That's interesting. So did he also suffocate her too? Maybe he tried. That's interesting, because that almost makes me, that leads me to believe that he tried to smother her because maybe he couldn't strangle her. Like, maybe he couldn't finish the job by just strangling her. I don't know. What a sick, twisted man. Seriously. I'd be curious. That would be a question I would ask. Did Dr. Smock noted that Birchmore was in the habit of always wearing a chain with a flamingo pendant. A chain was found broken around her neck. Breaking of Birchmore's chain necklace is consistent with the struggle. Yeah, because it wasn't on the clasp, remember? It was on the other part of the on the necklace. Dr. Smock, based on his education, experience, and training, his reviews of the materials in this case, opined, there's that word again, with a reasonable degree of medical and scientific certainty that the cause of Miss Birchmore's death is asphyxia and that the manner of her death is homicide. So this is their interview with Mr. Matthew Farwell. And before we continue on, because we still got plenty more of this to go, guys, I'm going to stop it there, and I'll put a part 2. I just wanted to get through the timeline, the series of events leading into it, the text messages, the charges, what exactly he was indicted with, what seemingly the evidence they have to support those charges, and potentially why it took as long as it did for potentially the FBI to step in and say, something smells here. So tomorrow, or in our next video, we will go over the Massachusetts State Police interview of Matthew Farwell, because there's even more stuff that's going to come in through here, more text messages that he's going to have to account for. their observations of the police interview. So that'll be really interesting for sure. In the meantime, if you thought this video was interesting, fascinating, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next Sandra Birchmore update from me. And you don't miss part 2 of this readout. Again, I was planning on doing it all in one, but it's a doozy, guys, and I am mentally, emotionally drained. I'm sure you guys are too.